How's everybody doing on this Tuesday? I figured I'd throw the Area 51 up there because that seems to
Hey,
be
I
something.
like that. I really like that. Good
I do
evening,
too.
everybody.
Thanks, Sean Lowry. He's the one that suggested the Area 51 when we were doing aliens, but it still fits into everything we do. So,
Well, considering everything's top secret and confidential, and
oh yeah,
they want us to stay ignorant and stupid, and all
yeah,
we're trying to do is spread some information around so that people can be well informed.
everything's Area 51 now. So, sorry if I'm breaking up tonight. My cable is having some issues, evidently. So they must not want us on Tuesday night. If it doesn't rain, then it's going to be cable issues. So,
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be a trucket show if we didn't have some technical issues.
hey,
Hey,
Miss
Miss
Ruth,
Ruth.
how are you doing tonight? I was talking to Miss Ruth last night some.
Awesome.
So tonight
Yeah, I
our
get to
show.
talk to her every now and then.
She was asking me something about Facebook. I think it's an old screenshot from them trying to tell you how to clear your timeline out some, and I think it's an old screenshot, so I don't find anything on there. So it's not raining here today, surprisingly, Ruth. So
Give it a few minutes. It's Florida.
yeah, I've been looking at the radar. It seems to be pretty up in Georgia. It's pouring down rain, but if you're north of I-10, it's probably raining. But if you're south of I-10, it's probably not, unless you're down by Daytona or something. So I'm in the middle. So
Oh,
let's hope not. Y'all seen last week when it started pouring on me. So
you never know.
yeah, I wasn't sure. Sorry about the abrupt ending last week. I don't know what happened. I ended the show because Sally froze up, and I wasn't sure if it was her or me, and we had gone over our hour time anyway, so I figured I'd go ahead and just end the show. So,
We're going to try to keep it to our usual 1 hour. We have less technical issues at that point.
some people do it for hours and hours. So
Yeah, we can talk for hours and hours on all kinds of topics on this show. So tonight we're going to be talking about the CDC and the information that's coming out. Where you can get your information so you can be prepared and not scared. Okay? I hate all the fear mongering that's going on the news media. We have a couple of clips tonight of it. We have a video straight from the CDC. Oh my gosh, we have so much information to get out there tonight.
The CDC, yes, don't. I guess they're running out of things to talk about without COVID now. They got all that money, and now they need to keep the budget going. So, you know.
Yep, they got new health warnings coming out. You go to their website, and they have every topic under the sun. If you want to know about it, they have information on it. So go over there, check them out, get some information, do some more research. No, do your legwork, do your homework. Don't believe everything you see on modern media. They don't know everything. Educate yourself.
Yeah, they don't know everything, and they pretty much use one story as the baseline for everybody, and then they're all owned by the same corporations. So then half of the news, they don't even cover half the news anymore. I was watching some old news stuff from the 80s on YouTube, and it's amazing at how much more news they covered back then that would just be local. The whole 30 minutes would be local, state, unless it was something major.
Really important.
Yeah. Like
now they're just pushing the agenda, and the agenda is fear mongering.
Yeah, pretty much.
But they are getting some information out. It's just very limited.
Very limited. And I try to watch the news when I can, but it's so left leaning now that it's hard to even watch. No matter where it's at, no matter who it's from, even local news, it's very hard to watch for me. I've got a deer fly that is stalking me right now. So if you see me doing like this, I've got a deer fly after me. So
well, you probably look like a tasty morsel.
I guess so. I got bees all around me, deer flies, spiders, mosquitoes. So hopefully I don't catch nothing sitting outside here in Florida. So
oh. All right. Well, hopefully we can kick this off with the video from the CDC, giving you an introduction to them.
Yep, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and share this. This is one of the CDC's explanations on why there's so many new or old diseases coming back. Maybe.
Widespread scientific.
Whoops.
Sorry about that. That was completely my fault.
Gotta love that technology there.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. Let me see. Let me try this a different way. There we go.
In communities across the United States, extreme weather, unhealthy air quality, and disease outbreaks are becoming more frequent and more severe, affecting more
There's your
people
fly.
and places.
Yeah.
Changes to our climate mean our communities need to prepare for the health risks of higher temperatures. Extreme heat can lead to heat stroke, heat cramps, heat exhaustion, dehydration, and death. Anyone can be at risk, but some are more vulnerable, including pregnant women, people with heart or lung conditions, young children, older adults, athletes, and outdoor workers. So how do we prepare for extreme heat? Communities can establish cooling centers, plant trees to lower urban temperatures, and educate residents on ways to protect themselves and others, such as drinking plenty of water and checking on older relatives and neighbors. A changing climate also means more frequent and more severe storms and flooding. That puts people at immediate risk of being injured or killed by debris, downed power lines, or floodwaters. After a severe storm or flooding event, possible health risks are contaminated food or drinking water, bacteria, viruses, and toxic chemicals in floodwaters, mold, and difficulty accessing healthcare services like emergency help, prescribed medications, and supplemental oxygen. In these events, older residents, people with disabilities, and lower-income households are more at risk. They may all have a harder time fleeing from a storm and may face more health risks if they can't evacuate. One thing we often miss: the mental toll. First responders who witness countless tragedies and residents who are forced to flee are more vulnerable to anxiety and depression, even those who have no history of mental illness. To prepare, communities can find out which neighborhoods, people, and resources are most at risk, upgrade infrastructure such as roads and sanitary sewer systems, and educate residents on how to stay safe during and after an extreme weather event, such as avoiding driving in flooded areas. As average temperatures rise across the globe, air quality can also change. That looks like longer and stronger pollen seasons, which can trigger asthma attacks and allergies, hotter temperatures and changing weather patterns, which can make air pollution worse by increasing the density of dangerous particles, more frequent droughts that can lead to which release dangerous young children, people with asthma and respiratory conditions, older adults, and people with compromised immune systems are more at risk of being harmed. Work that can help communities prepare includes collaborating with community partners to set up health-focused air quality alert systems and educating residents on how to check alerts to know when it's safe to exercise outside. Now, let's talk about these little guys, pests. Change to our climate can also mean more risk of diseases spread by pests like ticks, mosquitoes, fleas, and rodents. With higher average temperatures, diseases transmitted by pests can multiply faster, spread to more locations, and infect people over longer periods of time each year. Lyme disease, West Nile virus, Zika, and hantavirus are examples of the resulting health risks. People who spend extended time outdoors in areas where pest-borne diseases are common are most at risk. Communities can prepare by creating systems to track and assess population health effects and working with local partners on outreach strategies to help residents protect themselves, such as staying out of certain areas and using insect repellent. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is empowering health departments across the United States to prevent and adapt to the local health risks of a changing climate through the Climate Ready States and Cities Initiative. CDC's Building Resilience Against Climate Effects, or BRACE framework, helps health departments plan a coordinated community response. Using BRACE, communities are 1. Identifying the range of climate impacts and the people, locations, and resources most at risk. 2. Quantifying the health problems associated with a changing climate. 3, assessing science-based interventions to address those health problems. 4, developing and overseeing community adaptation plans. And 5, evaluating the process to learn more about what works. For more information, visit cdc.gov/climate and health.
All right, folks. There's an introduction to kind of what we're going to be covering today on our show. You know, there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on out there. I know we have a video somewhere of what's going on in California with the secret base out there that was accidentally discovered illegally operating. So
I haven't seen this video, but I've got one about it, but it's 8 minutes long, so we might break it up into a couple of things. But yeah, I have a hard time believing a lot of this with all these bugs and everything else, because anybody that's lived in Florida knows that bugs are nothing new. It's always hot in Florida in the summertime. It's always
flood.
It always floods in Florida. A lot of these places, it's nothing new for it to flood at. And I mean, okay, so which part of, and warmer overall temperatures. Now, 8 months ago, they were talking about how cold it was because it was snowing everywhere in the middle of April or snowing in the middle of April. You know, 3 years ago, the whole state of Texas was froze over. You know, but now we're talking about, it seems like every season they want to go, and they're talking about more pollen seasons. Well, you want everything to be more green.
You know, and Lyme disease has been around ever since I was a kid.
Lyme disease.
Okay, we now have the new Zika and the West Nile virus that came out in early 2000s.
Yeah, I mean,
I know because I had a horse that died from it.
Well,
and when I was treating the horse, the vet was scared that I was going to contract it through a fly bite or a mosquito bite. And I was like, I ain't worried about it.
I think a lot of that might become a part of your immune system too, to where just like when you get chicken pox, you don't get it again, you know.
Well, no, at the time I had an abscessed tooth and I'd taken and consumed enough antibiotics to bulletproof an elephant trying to get rid of that infection so I could pull the tooth. So there you go.
I've been there before, so I know what you feel. I couldn't afford to go buy the antibiotics because I didn't have insurance at the time. So the guy I worked for, my boss, when I did AC work, he'd go on cruises all the time. And he had put everything, all his money all his bills and everything he had put on a cruise credit card and then just pay off the credit card every year. So, or every month. So he'd get free cruises all the time, and he'd go to Mexico on cruises and bring back like a ton of antibiotics and stuff that you couldn't buy, that you shouldn't need a prescription in the US for, but do have to have a prescription for. So I'd just ask him for a bottle of pills. And it wasn't painkillers or nothing.
That's dangerous to do now. I'm going to tell you. All this fentanyl, that's dangerous to do.
This was 10 or 15 years ago, so.
Yep. So anyway, you know, like I said, we've got a bunch of videos. We're trying to educate and get people to think outside of the box. Don't worry about the fear-mongering that's going on in the media. But we're going to be showing the media. You know, this next video will probably only show just a few minutes of it. But it's pretty informative that, you know, they found how they found this lab because the code inspector decided to investigate. Now the code inspector, not the cops, not the feds, the code inspector. Well, all over one hose.
In the meantime, they were worried about taking down a sign in San Francisco. So, you know.
Yep. Good old Fresno. So, code inspectors on the job.
I don't think you sent me any videos from that, but I've got one here that's from Breaking Points talking about it. So, hey, Logbook, how are y'all doing today? Let's see here. Now, I'm not sure if this is a liberal or a Democrat or a Republican or neutral news point, because it says the top topics of our top ones on here was Trump, Hunter, Ukraine, Biolab, UFOs. So let's see what we got here just for fun.
Yeah, never know where we're going to go.
Yeah. Let's see.
One that we actually spent hours kind of trying to dig into.
You went down this rabbit hole.
I was just like, what the hell is going on? Is this as insane as it appears on the surface? And the answer actually is yes. So let's put this up there. The first person to flag it to me was Kyle Bass, who put out this tweet. And we're going to go through some of the actual allegations in here. He says, quote, an illegal secret Chinese bioagent lab has been raided by the FBI, the CDC, and California Public Health Department in Fresno County, California. The CDC's Division of Select Agents found infectious bacterial and viral agents at the site, which was listed as an empty building. Bioagents included malaria, rubella, and HIV. He continues, chlamydia, E. coli, numerous other types, hepatitis B and C, herpes 1 and 5. The lab had, quote, 900 genetically engineered mice designed to carry various COVID strains, living in inhumane conditions with another 175 that were actually found dead. Okay, so let's look at the actual details. And it appears actually that many of them do add up. So let's go to the NBC News report. So the NBC News report specifically did not they did not ascribe the origin and the connections to the Chinese Communist Party in this, but they do actually confirm something key. One, this was an illegal, unlicensed laboratory full of lab mice, full of medical waste, and full of hazardous material. The Fresno County Public Health Department, quote, evaluated and assessed the activities of this unlicensed lab, and what they found is that with multiple state and federal agencies determined biological and chemical contents that were actually on site, including coronavirus, HIV, hepatitis, and herpes. So they actually confirmed, some of the actual chemicals and the biological strains and many of the others that were present there on site. Then you have to go down like a bit of a deeper rabbit hole here. And this was a fascinating view actually from public local news. This is why we do still need local news, Crystal, because they have great investigations. Let's put this up there. They say, quote, I have never seen anything like this. Illegal medical lab discovered in Reedley. This is from yourcentralvalley.com. What they point to is the city manager, actually, of the property says that she's never seen this in her 26-year career in the county of Fresno. We had 800 different types of chemicals and all.
Notice they said in the county of Fresno, not ever, but in the county of Fresno.
Not anywhere in California, just in the county of Fresno.
Yeah, I like how they added that in there.
All of that, which were on site. But eventually what comes through is that the tenant was a company called Prestige Biotech, and this has now since been confirmed, that was registered in Nevada, but was actually unlicensed for business in California. So the company's president is a Chinese citizen who they were only able to speak with via emails, which were actually included in the court documents. And, quote, other addresses provided as authorized agents for these empty offices were addresses in China that could not then be verified. Also, agents found thousands of package boxes, many with shipping labels from China, which were included in the court documents. So what was this lab doing in Fresno County, California? What's happening with this? And the craziest part, nobody knows.
Right.
Who is this company? Who is this Chinese guy? How did they get a permit for all this stuff? Did it come through legally or illegal customs? this is one of the most bizarre, odd things that has happened. There's obviously been a lot of skepticism and allegation and discussion around Wuhan, but at least that one was a level, it's level 4 safety biolab run by the Chinese government. This is some sketchy company in the middle of Fresno doing God knows what with who knows amount of unregulated chemicals. And the why question has still yet to be answered, despite multiple people in California trying to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
From what I could read in the court documents.
It's a wild story. And the authorities just sort of stumbled upon this.
Yeah, exactly.
A city inspector saw a garden hose that was like in a place a garden hose isn't supposed to be, which I didn't really know that they regulated where garden hoses could be, but apparently
probably in industrial
in
areas they do.
Building, they were like, you can't have that garden hose there. What else is going on? And then they go into this supposedly empty warehouse building and find all of this crazy stuff. In terms of what the owner of this company, Prestige Biotech, is saying, he told officials that Prestige Biotech moved assets that belonged to a defunct company called Universal Meditech Inc. to that warehouse from Fresno after that other company went under. Prestige Biotech was a creditor to that other company and identified as its successor, according to court documents. Officials were unable to get any California-based address for either company except for the previous Fresno location from which UMI had been evicted. So basically the story from the owner of this sketchy biotech company is that they had acquired this other defunct biotech company, that these were the assets from that one, and they just were sort of like storing them there randomly is basically the idea. But I mean, you think about like live mice included in this? I don't know. It is a wild one. I have
What did they have that many damn mice running around there that had been genetically modified to catch this virus?
Yes. And that's also what I'm wondering about. Just from what the CDC the video we just watched. So they have a hose laying out. It's unlicensed. Where is all that waste going? Because you don't have a license, so you can't dispose of it legally. Oh, wow.
Henceforth, the code inspector. Go code inspector.
Yeah,
Thank
code
you.
inspector. I'll give them that much. And then I'll actually give no telling how many, because they're saying they got all this equipment from another company that they had whatever money invested in, and they went bankrupt or they went out of business. So this company took all of it unlicensed. So,
but how many years have they been operating there?
How many years have
new
they been
thing,
operating?
Or
how many more do they have going on?
There you go. That's the question nobody's asking.
This one was discovered from a freaking hose. Where's all that waste going? Well, the CDC said that climate change is causing a problem with our water now. Don't worry. Also, watch for the rodents that could be carrying diseases. Wow.
Notice they put mosquitoes, they put ticks in there, then they definitely had their mice.
Yeah, they definitely had their mice. They put rodents on that list.
You see, and we hear all the time, China is buying property up around the nation.
Yeah.
How many of those are actually legitimate, helpful businesses?
Okay.
And not like this.
That brings up another good point. From what they're saying, the guy whose name the company was in or the warehouse was in was a Chinese American. Where is he at? They can't find anything about him. And then they find out that more Chinese people from China were in charge of this lab, and now none of them are to be found. You can't find any of them. So, and
that's usually what happens. I mean, the doctor who developed the COVID-19 virus in Wuhan, as soon as it broke that, the code inspector found it, Vincent, the code inspector.
He's saying, he's saying on here, he's talking about.
And who funded it?
Yeah,
with everything that's going on about, our residing nutcase in the White House and his son, you just got to wonder.
Yeah,
just gotta.
It makes me that ask. that
Hey,
is a
Dane.
total conflict of what that CDC. That is everything pretty much that CDC video put out could be leaked from one lab in California probably, and that's exactly what I
Yeah.
was saying.
Oh
Vince, a
my
second
God, the
ago.
mice got loose on the streets of Fresno.
Well, they go out of business. Like they
The
said, it's
mosquitoes flew out the door.
well, they wouldn't even have to say that. They just released the mice.
Yeah.
Who's going to trace it until that lab was discovered? Where are they going to trace it back to?
How they going? Well, another thought has crossed my mind, and this is part of my conspiracy theory here. Alert, alert, conspiracy theory. How else are they going to clean up the streets of California if they don't release the mice
And maybe it's
that are infected?
Maybe it's a way to get rid of all the homeless people or something, since it's got hepatitis, since they said they found hepatitis, HIV, COVID, why are,
hepatitis, yada, yada, yada. And which brings us to another good point. What else has the CDC got on them?
Yeah.
We now are hearing about an 81% spike in leprosy. Now, this is straight from the CDC website.
Ew, come on, computer.
They're talking about it.
Yeah,
But, they're not talking about it too loud because they don't want people to start thinking. The WHO is also made out.
I did not know that, Dean, that the cold was considered a biological weapon, or the code was.
Yeah.
And let me see what you have to say too, Paul. Thanks for joining in tonight, Paul. Hope you're doing okay. It says, I was in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, and it was believable amount of people living on the streets in their cars, parking lots, at Walmart, living in makeshift RV parks. It's just unbelievable how bad it is there. So yeah, I hear people, they're wondering why people keep leaving California. So
yeah. Well, we have had a movement for decades of people who are van dwellers,
yeah,
RV dwellers, car dwellers, but a lot of them have lost everything, and that's all they have. The only place they have to live, and they're learning how to live out of their vehicles.
We used to have a lot of those in Florida, and now they have things up saying, I'm going to live my life on the road. And,
yeah, they can do remote work.
Well, then it shows
they can freelance.
Life on the road.
They're making good livings without all the expense. On the road,
and it cost them $10,000 to park somewhere. So,
well, they have places called oh hell, what is it? Dispersed camping, that you can go and you can stay there up to 14 days.
Yeah. We have a lot of that in
and
Florida.
not have to pay anything to live there.
Well, they shut a lot of them down during COVID because they didn't want people traveling, so they shut a lot of them down during COVID. And then I know a lot of them here they started having problems with because so many people would just trash the place, and that's usually state property. So it'd have to be state police most of the time, game wardens pretty much patrolling it. And they would I've seen a bunch of stuff where they just go and find the whole area trashed. And it would be like, well, you've been here for a month. You've got feces all over the place around you. You can't do that crap. You can't just take a crap anywhere you want. You can't just throw your trash out here. And a lot of them are, surprisingly, from California. So
that doesn't surprise me at all.
It doesn't really surprise me at all either.
It really doesn't surprise me. But we got a lot of stuff going on. Chad, do you have that video footage of
the news video?
Yeah, about the leprosy.
Yes, I was pulling it up right now.
Oh, I love a man who was right on cue with me.
All right, this is Fox 35 News out of Orlando, which can be kind of biased but unbiased at the same time. So let's see what they've got to say.
Alert leprosy, of all things, is making a comeback, and Central Florida appears to be the epicenter. The painful disease is now considered an endemic to Central Florida.
Yeah, not what you expect to hear. The CDC saying 1/5 of all those new cases, they've been reported in our region. And Fox 35's Marlisa Goldsmith is live in the Fox 35 Alert Center with that warning, one that will catch a lot of people off guard, Marlisa.
Absolutely, Ryan and Luann. The CDC says the ancient virus should now be considered part of all patient exams who show rashes and swelling. The virus has been commonly seen in places like India and Brazil, but now Floridians with no history of travel to those places have been infected. This 54-year-old man from Central Florida who works in landscaping gave researchers permission to share these photos. Take a good look at them. Swelling on his face is apparent here, as are lesions on his ankles. 95% of people are genetically immune to leprosy. The disease has been around since 600 BC, but has seldom been found in the U.S. Until now, most people with it had traveled from areas where the disease was already prevalent. But now researchers are concerned because most cases seem to be locally acquired.
It is a reemergence. We're seeing more of it. Now, why this is, people don't know. You have almost negligible threat as far as infection goes.
All right, so the other thing to watch out for is exposure to armadillos. I know, sounds strange, but researchers say a large percentage of U.S. patients have the same strain of the virus as is commonly found in the animal, suggesting that close encounters may be to blame. As far as whether people should be afraid, doctors stress that it's highly unlikely for it to be passed from person to person. It is a curable disease, but must be caught early to avoid long-term damage to nerves and limbs. Live in the Alert Center tonight, Marlisa Goldsmith, Fox 35 News.
Marlisa, thanks.
Okay, folks, there's one take on it.
I wonder.
Went and checked the CDC website, and they're saying they're not sure why there's an uptick in Florida with it. But if you go check the other CDC post on the WHO network, they kind of let it out of the box a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not going to read this whole thing.
Yeah, it's down below the 54-year-old male's picture, I believe.
This is one of them that you sent me that's talking about cases of leprosy in general.
Yep.
And it's talking about
I think it's on the other website.
well, I can get it up too.
That one right there is from the CDC website. It talks about, he was asked if he had been out of the country, if he had any contact with armadillos, because the man did yard work. And he said no to all that. Well, the chief carrier of leprosy is armadillos.
Well,
they're nasty little vermin. We don't call them possum on the half shell in the South for no specific reason.
Well, they kill a lot of different stuff too. I will say that. I've never had a dangerous encounter with an armadillo. I've got one that used to come around here all the time, especially when I did my old show Partners in Crime with Deborah and Jackie, and I guess it got named Roscoe. I hadn't seen him in a while, but the biggest problem I ever had with with the armadillos, was digging holes in my yard. And
well, you know why they dig the holes? They're after termites. They're after ants.
After bugs. So that's one reason why I'll let them roam around my yard.
They're not all bad, but they are the chief carrier of leprosy.
Right. And
I've known that since I was a kid. And, we always try to get them away from the house because they'll dig under your foundation and cause great foundation issues.
I've never found any under my house. And I live in a double wide, so my house is on blocks anyway. So, but yeah, Dean's right. Possums actually do a lot of good too. but I would put possums and armadillos kind of in the same category as far as they do carry diseases. And yep, you're right. They're also immune to rabies, so they'll eat a lot of rabies stuff. They're also immune to a lot of snake venom, which is how we get a lot of our antivenoms is through snake or through possums. So something anybody in Texas will probably know this joke, but
yeah, I mean those two animals do a lot of good, but they are disease carriers.
They are disease carriers, you know. And like, why the Texas joke would be, why did the chicken cross the road?
But according to the WHO, the cause of the 81% uptick of the 159 cases that's been reported in the United States, that, you know, migrants has been listed as one of the carriers. And, you know, you just kind of wonder, I mean, you can pass it from person to person, especially if they cough or sneeze, or you have to clean up after somebody, as we're seeing on the streets everywhere.
The answer to my joke a minute ago, the answer to my joke a minute ago is why the chicken crossed the road. It was to prove to the armadillo that it could be done, because that's something you'd always find in Texas roads is flat armadillos. So,
well, you know, whenever you run up on an armadillo, it scares them, so they ball up, and that's what you hit. And they can do a lot of damage to your vehicle, I promise.
The ones around my house don't seem to be scared of anything. I'll be honest with you there. They don't come up on my porch or anything, but they'll come up right up to my porch. So,
yeah. But they can run fast. I know I've chased my fair share of baby armadillos in my life.
They come up in my creek. So, I'm trying to find the one with the CDC on here, or the one that is from WHO. I don't see it anywhere. There is another story that you sent me from Baltimore, or that is from Florida, but put in on by Baltimore. Maybe it'll.
Yeah, we'll just throw that one up there.
Maybe it'll scare some people out of Florida.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
I doubt it too.
Stay the fun in the sun, you know.
Yeah. It's never scared AOC out, unfortunately. So here we go. This is
there we go.
Baltimore.
Oh, don't start me. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Yeah.
That's the reaction 11 News got when talking to people about the ancient disease of leprosy. The CDC says Florida is one of the top states with the most new leprosy cases in the country.
We know leprosy from our biblical studies when we were young, perhaps, and we know it's been around for thousands of years.
Dr. Shel Weiberg is an infectious disease specialist with LifeBridge Health.
More recently, we have seen a cluster of cases in Florida that is making people thinking more about how is this happening, and it's concerned that potentially leprosy is becoming endemic in Florida.
Endemic means something that is circulating and is present at all times. It can be at a low level.
It's a mycobacterium, and it affects the skin and the nerves, nerve endings close to the skin. So that's why you see those typical symptoms where people get, non-healing wounds, and they can also be disfigured in some cases because you get constant trauma to those areas where you don't have any sensation anymore.
Although leprosy can spread from person to person, it's not known precisely how. The disease is not spread through casual physical contact, according to the CDC.
We have good treatments for leprosy today, so it's a very treatable disease once, you think about the diagnosis and do the appropriate testing.
Leprosy can sometimes present like a rash with pigmented, scaly skin lesions. The CDC says travel to Florida should be considered when conducting leprosy contact tracing in any state. Lisa Robinson, WBAL TV 11 News.
And there you go, folks. It's treatable.
It's treatable. They keep saying that it's treatable. They will say that on every news broadcast. I will say they keep saying it's treatable. But once again, where's it coming from? He's talking about how it's been obliterated in the U.S. for...
It depends on how long you've had it. If you've had it for a short period and it's caught early, you can get over it in a month or so. But if you had it for a long term, it's going to take up to 2 years of antibiotics to get over it.
I could believe
and
that.
it will cause the nerve damage on your skin and in your hands and your legs and leave some, pretty bad scarring.
Well, like you could see from there, they're asking people in Baltimore about it and they've never even heard of it, and that's something I've definitely heard of was leprosy, even growing up and even jokes and stuff. So
yeah. Well, the WHO says there have been upticks over in the Middle East, but it's been from people who have come from South and Central America over there who is bringing it. And because of hygiene issues, because they apparently were not raised in very sanitary conditions, the way we like to live.
Yeah.
They spread it.
Yeah.
And it is coming from migrants.
And Paul, sorry, I was going to say, Paul, you probably missed it at the beginning of the show when we were talking about how they're saying climate change is the reason for all these upticks. And meanwhile, they're busting biolabs in California. So,
well, they don't want to point the finger. They don't want to start a panic. But, people need to know the truth. This is a communicable disease. It's not like you can, catch it just by passing somebody on the street. Hygiene, hygiene, hygiene. Wash those hands. Clean up after yourself. Cover your mouth when you cough. Just because the pandemic's over, let's not forget all of our social issues that we learn to protect ourselves. Don't mean we have to run around with the full mask on.
That's another thing that they say is causing these things to spread so much more that they were saying before COVID, because they were telling you not to use antibacterial soap and not to use too much hand sanitizer, because they said that pretty much takes away the need for your immune system as far as like skin and stuff goes. So bacterial infections, what is leprosy, go on the increase whenever you start using too much hand sanitizer and I guess become too hygienic, I guess you would say. And I've seen studies on that before too, to where people that are, what's it called? Whenever you're afraid of getting sick or always feel that you're sick.
Yep. Well, Paul, I'm just going to tell you, these diseases and these illnesses have been around for hundreds of years.
Thousands of years.
But they're actually mutating them, like in the lab out in California, to see if they can create a superbug.
Well,
or
going back to that lab in California, what are you going to do with your findings anyway? Because like they said, none of that was legal. None of that was permitted for anything. It was supposed to be a warehouse, so it's not like you're going to be, here's another question, I guess, if you want to go for big pharma, where do you sell your information to show that this works?
Why was Wuhan mutating a bat virus?
Because it's legal.
Well, no, Obama sent them $3 million or $3 billion to help fund that research through Dr. Fauci.
Because you're not allowed to do it in the U.S., so you have to find hypochondriac. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Vince. I understand some of that, because if you look into some of that, it's not allowed to be done in the U.S. You're not supposed to be able to test that gain of function testing in the U.S. China don't care.
China Canada's got a whole lot of bad things going on up there.
We'll just send our money to them and pay another country to do the same thing that we would be doing. And then you don't have to go through all the regulations either,
Sort of like they did West Africa when they created Monkey Island while they were studying hepatitis B and C.
Yeah, exactly.
And AIDS.
Exactly.
That one came out from the Boston Research Center.
So, I mean, it's maybe not exactly the same thing because at least they were on an island, but monkeys can swim, which they found out.
No, they weren't on an island to start with. See,
No, I know. I'm talking about Wuhan versus.
Oh, Wuhan was, and that was pretty much right in the middle of the city. Oh, wait a minute. Fresno's was too.
Yeah, Fresno's was too. That's what I was kind of saying versus Monkey Island versus Wuhan is that at least Monkey Island was thought to be isolated. I mean,
well, they isolated the positive test subjects, as they are called, after a war broke out, a civil war broke out, and they had to close down the research facility in Africa.
That's right. That's right.
So they shipped all the monkeys to one island, and we're going to pretty much leave them there to their own demise. But the people who had worked with the monkeys are actually going and bringing food to them because there's no way for them to have food on that island. And you're talking about generations of monkeys with, hepatitis B, C.
We've got hepatitis monkeys here in Florida too, to be honest with you. So,
so there's a lot of stuff out there you can research, but we got about 15 minutes left. Let's do something positive. The Fed, they said the feds came in there, the CDC was in there. They didn't give as much credit to the code inspector. Go code inspector. Give that man a bonus. He found it. He questioned it. He reported it so the CDC and the FBI could come in and do what they needed to do. But here's something else the feds are actually doing, and I'm proud of them. They are working on stopping this child trafficking. You heard it, folks. I'm giving the feds credit for where the feds credit is due.
Here's actually this is in Florida too. At least Florida does put out some. Come on now. This is one that Sally sent me about a child sex ring investigation. And I'll put it up here right now. This is from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. WPLG, they actually put out quite a bit of news that gets shared around the country. But
yeah, let's share it for for folks who don't get to see this.
Of suspects arrested in connection with a child sex abuse investigation that turned deadly for two FBI agents in South Florida. Daniel Alfin and Laura Schwarzenberger were shot and killed in 2021 while serving a search warrant in Sunrise connected with that sex ring.
And now, years later, nearly 100 people are facing charges. Local 10's Rosh Lowe joins us from FBI headquarters in Miramar with the details.
More than 2 years ago, we had two FBI agents who lost their lives in the line of duty. They were investigating an alleged child abuse ring. Now today, the FBI is saying that nearly 100 arrests have been made. It was February 2021 in Sunrise when the FBI says suspect David Lee Huber opened fire on FBI agents Daniel Alfin and Laura Schwarzenberger. They were serving a warrant at his house for a crimes against children case. The agents lost their lives. Huber died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, according to the FBI. Today, the FBI announced 98 people have been arrested in connection with child sex abuse, 13 children rescued from harm.
We see it as a significant outcome, and I think that this outcome should definitely serve as a warning to those who are preying on our most vulnerable, that we are looking for you, we will find you, and we will arrest you.
Authorities say the Sunrise case very much connected, as the agents who lost their lives were investigating the alleged ring. And the search warrant was served on a computer programmer suspected of having child pornography. More than 2 years ago, authorities say Huber was watching the agents approach through his video doorbell when he opened fire, killing them and injuring 3 others. The investigation into the alleged ring stretched to Australia. Authorities say the suspects ran a complex network where child abuse material was shared on the dark web. Alfin and Schwarzenberger dedicated their lives to protecting children.
It really demonstrates, I think, the commitment and connection we have across the country and how we can connect in internationally.
And the FBI made it very clear today that these types of investigations are very much ongoing. Outside the FBI headquarters in Miramar, I'm Rosh Lowe, Local 10 News.
Whoops.
And let's bring in our...
You know, we hear so much from the whistleblowers that are coming out and talking in DC about information about what's going on with Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and the Biden family.
So Dean said this happened in This was in Pennsylvania. And it's like they killed.
I think she's replying to Ruth's comment.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, but we hear so much negative stuff about the FBI, and it's not every FBI agent. It's just the ones in Washington, D.C. and New York.
It is.
Okay.
Well, I won't say it's just the ones in Washington, D.C., but are highly connected to Washington, D.C., you know, because I'm sure they've got them around here in Florida, too. And, you know.
But it's nice to hear something positive coming out, that they are on the job trying to stop these sexual predators from trafficking children.
I think sexual predators needs to be divided up some more, because I think a child sex predator, and then because like sex trafficking also includes prostitution, which I know has tons of trafficked people in it too, but a lot of those are out there somewhat voluntarily, you know, just because I've heard people talk about how much money you make off prostitution, and it's not, I mean, unless you're working around on the bad side of town or something, which means you're pretty much after drugs and give a $20 for a sex act or something like that, then you're making pretty good money most of the time. So I can see why it'd be lucrative. Even to illegals, it'd be lucrative. You know, all these migrants, it'd be lucrative too, that aren't getting trafficked, or might have to pay a lot of it. That's where it comes from, is they might have to pay back their debt for getting trafficked, you know?
Yep.
And I'm not sure what this one has in it, but I just wanted to play it real quick. It's 3 minutes long, and it comes from Houston, KHOU. And this says it's hear this sex trafficker's warning to parents from jail. So I just wanted to see what this guy had to say, just real quick.
Throw that beautiful beam footage up there and let's see what's going on.
And this is from the Logbook's hometown.
These are the average suburban kids.
They're promising them the world and then delivering them into hell.
Sit your daughter down and let her know. There's people out there really ready to manipulate her.
Some would say you're only a baby.
Yeah. Some would say that. Everything just sounded nice, like the fast life and being able to do whatever you want, no parents, no rules.
Why motivation?
Man, a pimp gave me his name. He said, I'm going to call you motivation because you dedicated your woman and inspired her to be something that she wasn't.
Bring me back, bring me on the dough. I need 5 people, you know how I go. I need a top notch show, get down the flow. Say, tell your daddy, well, know how I go. I keep it flying. Snow bunny, top notch, better have my money.
The money is addictive, man. It's like a drug, you know? It's a drilling. It's a rush.
You got to pay daddy well.
I'm making rapper money. I'm seeing 100,000 in 6 months. At the end of the day, it just ran like a business. It's like Bastions and Rollins. You got different flavors, you know? Everybody got their different tastes. Everybody got different type of girls they want. What do you think of that? That you get out of jail card free. Get out of jail card free.
It's easy to beat the system. People beat the system all the time.
That's
so I
sick.
guess it was a get out of jail free card. It made me feel like what happened wasn't really that serious and that it doesn't really matter. It happens all the time. Like, who cares if it's just another girl? Who cares if it's you this time?
Every day, getting money. Every day we ride around in Hummers. Big bodies, big cars, fancy cars, diamond rings, pinky rings, finer things. She loved me because I gave her the game.
Average.
The next thing I know, I'm selling my body for money. They knew where my family lived. And if I ever snitched on them or turned them into the police, basically, they had a gun and knew how to use it.
I guess that's a series. I'll have to go and try to find that one. So, but yeah, that's scary right there. And that's how a lot of these people describe it as when they get sex trafficked is, you know, we'll kill your family if you stop her. We'll kill you, you know, or, I mean, and these are kids. These guys are proud of sex trafficking these kids, you know. Then you turn one in and they get probation. How is that? And then you take her to jail. How is that protecting anything with no, you know? I mean, there's no consequence for them.
And unfortunately, I know of 2 separate cases here in Oklahoma where parents were actually trafficking their own young children.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And that's the most disturbing thing. How can a parent do that to their own children?
How can you do that to your...
These are children that you give life to, and their mothers were involved. How? It's sick. This needs to stop. At least 5 or 6 times a week while I'm out here on this road traveling in America, I get Amber Alerts for young girls who go missing. And you know there's foul play involved. And then eventually they wind up on the streets.
Yeah. I mean, it's sick to me.
Or pictures on Hunter Biden's laptop. Who knows?
I mean,
that's sick. But I mean, that's the reality. They can be on a Pornhub somewhere.
Yeah. I mean,
so if you have not seen The Sound of Freedom, get out, go to the theater, and watch it.
I need to go see that still. I need to go see that.
It's a very eye-opening movie from what I have been told in the reviews. I've seen pretty much all of it out here traveling the nation.
I can imagine.
It's disturbing. Go see The Sound of Music. Parents, protect your children's innocence.
Sounds of Freedom.
Sounds of Freedom, yeah. Just,
sorry.
You know, go see it. Educate yourself.
Well,
and just remember, sometimes in life, you just got to say, truck it.
Everybody have a good night tonight and the rest of the week. Try not
We
to
love you.
Thanks for everybody for joining, and y'all have an excellent week.
See you next week.